American vlogger Elliot Eastman.
Elliot Eastman.
Elliot Eastman.
Elliot Eastman.
I believe 26-year-old Elliot Eastman is still alive.
Elliot Eastman, a young American with big dreams, grew tired of life in the United States. After a period of working as an Uber driver and living in a familiar environment, he felt like he wanted more. He was ready to break free from the daily routine and live an adventure. So one day, he made a bold choice. He left the United States and flew to the Philippines. He headed to a distant destination, thousands of miles away, in search of a new life. After crossing the ocean, he arrived in Zamboanga del Norte, a place some described as a red zone. At first, everything seemed perfect. Eastman settled into a modest apartment with a low rent, 3,000 pesos per month, about $52, a very low price compared to American standards. In this idyllic place, he began to feel at home. After meeting a young Filipino woman, who he later married, things became even better. She spoke decent English and provided immense support, and a strong connection quickly formed between the two, and Elliot integrated further into the Filipino community. He started building a life in the country where he lived modestly, but where his American dollars had a significant impact on his lifestyle. He began filming and posting about his life in the Philippines on his YouTube channel, documenting his adventures and joys with his wife. Those who followed him on social media admired his simplicity and authenticity. He and his wife filmed themselves having fun, playing games, and making jokes for their fans. However, over time, Elliot started to feel more and more that things were not as safe as they had seemed at first. Although he had built a small store on the beach and tried to earn a living, and his lifestyle in the Philippines was relatively quiet, he couldn't ignore the signs of danger. In a series of live streams, he started talking about his fears and the threats he felt were surrounding him.
I feel like I've been staying in this area for so long to the point where people, I don't even know if people like me anymore. Maybe they want bad things to happen to me now. It's like that's how I'm starting to think. So it's like, it's really not good.
It's dangerous here. It's not like in America. There are all kinds of people who could attack or kidnap you, he said. In one post, he even talked about how he and his wife had hidden from some strangers who seemed to have bad intentions. These moments became more frequent, and the atmosphere of insecurity grew heavier. It's a dangerous area, and I have a feeling someone wants to kidnap me, he admitted, acknowledging that the situation was becoming more and more risky. After a regular live streaming session, Elliot and his wife were at home when, in a sudden turn of events, 4 men dressed in police uniforms entered their house. But they weren't police officers. They were kidnappers using a false authority to capture Elliot. In those moments, Elliot immediately understood what was happening and tried to defend himself. In the middle of the fight, one of the attackers shot him in the thigh and then in the stomach, gravely injuring him. His wife screamed for help and tried to intervene, but it was all in vain. Elliot was thrown to the floor, and the kidnappers took him by force and dragged him to the shore, where they threw him into a speedboat. The boat quickly headed out to sea, leaving his wife in the midst of an indescribable despair. It was a moment of pure horror for her, knowing that her husband was in the hands of people who had no good intentions. Authorities were immediately alerted, and after a swift investigation, it was discovered that the kidnappers were members of a criminal group that had been operating in the area for some time. The police launched an intensive search with the help of the FBI, given Elliot's American citizenship. A team of investigators was sent to track the kidnappers, and within a few days, 3 of them were captured. However, one crucial question remained. What had happened to Elliot? The kidnappers were interrogated, but the story was complicated. It was believed that they acted with the intention of getting a ransom, as Elliot was American, and they assumed his family could pay a substantial amount for his release. And while they were transporting him in the speedboat, Elliot died from his injuries. The kidnappers threw his body into the water, and it was not immediately found. It was a tremendous tragedy, not only for Elliot's family, but also for the online community that supported him. At the time of writing this story, his body had not yet been found, and the investigations were ongoing. The FBI, along with the Filipino authorities, continued to investigate the case, and the charges of kidnapping and murder remained before the courts. The tragedy highlighted the hidden dangers of adventurous destinations, but also the risks of living in an area under the influence of dangerous criminal groups. This story is so sad. He really didn't deserve that. He was just a young man, dreaming of a better life, far from the dangers he eventually faced.